Welcome to a very, very special, unique episode of a podcast from Dogs on Deployment. And today it is going to be a mashup of our Boots on the Ground podcast and our Dogs on Deployment podcast. So, for our listeners, in case you are not familiar, we have two separate podcasts here at Dogs on Deployment. Our Boots on the Ground podcast is where we sit down with fabulous supporters, volunteers, and partners that make Dogs on Deployment's mission possible. And then we also have our Deployment Diaries podcast, where I get to sit down and chat with active duty and veteran military members that have used Dogs in Deployment's program and talk about all things about their pet and being active duty or veteran from the military. Now, why this is a mashup collaboration, huge collision that I'm so excited about today is because the person that I'm speaking with doesn't fit just the boots on the ground category or our deployment diaries category. She actually falls into both. And I keep saying she, and that she is Lisa. I'm so excited to chat with her today because she has used Dogs on Deployment's programs, and she is also a very active supporter right now of Dogs on Deployment. But I don't want to lead into give away too much. I am going to let Lisa tell you guys all about it herself. So I'm so excited to introduce Lisa to you guys. Lisa, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm so excited to be talking with you.
Hi, Kylie. I'm excited too. Thank you for having me today.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for joining. I'm so excited to let everyone know all about you. So let's go ahead and start with the kind of like the deployment diaries aspect of our podcast today. You were formerly active duty in the Army and you actually discovered Dogs on Deployment during your service. Can you share with myself and our listeners a little bit about what your situation was like as a pet owner in the military while you were active duty and how you discovered Dogs on Deployment?
Yeah, of course. So I was active duty. I was stationed overseas, so outside of the United States. My husband was still back home in the States. And at the time, I was getting ready to come back stateside, and he was in the National Guard, getting ready to go on his third deployment. So when I was getting ready to come back stateside, we found out he was coming, down on deployment orders. And that was kind of a, oh crap moment. We need to figure out a plan. So I started doing research. So this would have been in 2012, pretty much the time that Alyssa started Dogs on Deployment. And I was just searching the internet, kind of seeing what I could do. And I stumbled upon Dogs on Deployment and applied for the program.
And the program that Lisa is speaking of is Dogs on Deployment's Hero Pet Boarding Network. So, just in case if any of our listeners are unfamiliar about Dogs on Deployment's primary pillar program, our Hero Pet Boarding Network, that is where fabulous volunteers nationwide open up and volunteer their homes to active duty, military, National Guard, veterans, or even our first responders as well to bring those pets into their home and care for them during their owner's time of duty or hardship. So in this case, deployment would follow under that. And while that's what we're most known for, of course, there's so many other types of service commitments across all of our different America's heroes that fall under that. So for any reason you're uncertain if your particular situation falls into our categories of what qualifies for Hero Pet Boarding Network, please feel free to reach out to us and inquire because there are so many different scenarios that you can use that Hero Pet Boarding Network for help. And if you're interested in becoming a Dogs on Deployment boarder and opening up your home to a military member's pet, you can also join online at dogsondeployment.org as well. And the network is nationwide and it's totally free for our service members, but our service members remain financially responsible for their pets during that time of boarding. And I'm sure Lisa would love to tell us a little bit more about what that first experience was like for you trying to find a boarder through the Hero Pet Boarding Network and what that experience was like.
Yeah, so I searched for DoD boarders in the area that I was going to be stationed, and I used the messaging app because you can message the border on the DoD website, and we exchanged information. So I ended up finding a married couple. They were in the Syracuse, New York area, both school teachers, and they took the girls in while I finished off the rest of my active duty contract. So I didn't visit them too often just because I didn't want to confuse them, but I was able to, travel up and see them when I could. So it worked out well. The girls did great. It was just an overall wonderful experience.
Now you keep talking about the girls. Can you tell our listeners a little bit more about who are these girls that you're talking about?
Yes, so Allison was a lab mix. She was black and white, and Harley was an Australian Shepherd, and she was brown and white. So they were very fun girls. Lots of
Sounds like you
energy.
got a I say it sounds like high energy breeds. That's you got a lot going on there.
Yes.
So when you finally were able, you mentioned that you didn't visit them too often because you didn't want to necessarily confuse them. But can you tell us a little bit what it was like when you were finally reunited and able to take your girls home with you?
Well, that was amazing because I was done with my active duty contract, so I was going home. Um, I had to fit them in the car, along with all my other stuff, so it was a pretty packed car. But it was very exciting. Before you have children, your animals are kind of like your kids, so it was just overall a really special moment.
I can definitely personally contest to. I'm currently no human children, but I do have a little four-legged dog of my own, and she is absolutely my everything. So I'm so excited that you were able to discover dogs on deployment at such a brand new entrance into the world of the nonprofit, and we're able to utilize our program so that way your first little fur babies were able to be reunited with you. And you keep mentioning after your active duty contract, would you mind sharing with our listeners a little bit more about what you're currently doing?
Yeah, so after I got off active duty, I mean, I wanted to start a family. I was blessed with two girls, and I joined the Army Reserves like a year after my first daughter was born. So I've been in the Army Reserves ever since. So I'm currently still serving, planning to, complete my 20 years of service and retire.
Like, congrats on almost 20 years, that's super exciting.
Thanks.
And you're not just also still currently serving, the United States in some capacity, you have also, um, now you're currently staying connected with Dogs on Deployment. Can you tell a little bit more with our listeners about what kind of inspired that connection to continue and what you're actually doing now for our organization?
Yeah, I'll go a little more in depth with everything. So, um, Allison ended up having to be put down in late 2023, and Harley had to be put down in early 2024. And,
I'm so
if you
sorry.
thank you. If you've ever lost a pet, it's probably, I would say, one of the hardest things to endure. Then you add, your children into the mix. So it was just a really, really difficult time for us. And the thought of getting another pet, another dog was just overwhelming. So I kept finding myself at those moments like I wanted a dog, but I just couldn't follow through with it. So I've been following Dogs on Deployment on Facebook for a long, long time. But when you already have dogs in the home, it's sometimes hard to open up your doors to another dog because you don't know how they'll interact and if they'll get along. So once Harley and Allison had passed, I started thinking about becoming a DoD boarder. So eventually I signed up. I believe that was late 2024 that I did that. I signed up to be a DoD boarder. I kind of looked around the area to see if there was anybody needing care, and there wasn't anybody too close. So I kind of just kept checking back at different times. And a couple weeks after I had signed up, I looked and there was somebody within my area that was, looking for boarding. And I sent them a message. And I mean, pretty much the rest is history.
That's so exciting. And I also want to just give our listeners a little bit of context as well to what
Mhm.
Lisa's talking about as far as messaging through the Dogs on Deployment dashboard. Once you've entered the network, either as a boarder or a service member, you have the ability to, in a boarder's capacity, search for pets in need near you. And the really great thing is you can actually customize that radius that you're searching from. Just add in your either your city, state, or zip code and set the radius that you're willing to travel, and it will pop up with a list of pets that are in need in your area around you that are looking for boarding. And boarding, on average, we see 6 months is typically the traditional boarding length of time in regards to like deployment or training. But we will also have some that are, for a couple of weeks, or even we've done some up to 3 years as well for overseas. service members that have overseas duty station requirements that unfortunately their pets can't accompany them on that journey. And the really great thing that I also want to make sure our listeners know too is Lisa mentioned that she continued to, just periodically check the network to see if there's any pets in need near her. Boarders are totally able to, whenever they want, continue to check the network because pets in need can be added, within 2 minutes from now. There might be somebody new on the website listed that wasn't there, a couple minutes ago. But also for our service members can actually search for you, our boarders, as well. So they can plug in an area radius and do some searching as well. And it's really great. We love to encourage boarders and service members to have those conversations with each other to really just discuss the pets and as well as your home to find that perfect fit for each other. And as Lisa put it, the rest is history. So the rest is history. Would you mind telling our listeners a little bit more about this first dogs on deployment boarding experience that you're having? I know you have some dogs in your care. I would love to hear more about them, as well as I'm sure our listeners would love to know a little bit more too about what's going on in your home and what that first experience has been like for you, especially having lost your pets.
Yeah, so when I connected with mom,
Mm.
Bailey and Holly's mom, it was initial messaging over the dashboard, and then we exchanged phone numbers. And that first call was lasted over an hour. I mean, we just went through pretty much everything and anything that we needed to discuss, and planning. Um, and she told me what a big weight off my shoulders, and it was interesting to me at that point because in that moment I knew exactly how she felt. So it was pretty amazing to be able to do something like that. So I have, well, I should say my family, and I have Bailey. She's a Labrador Retriever mix, and then we have Holly, who's a Border Collie. Mom had
So you
warned
got
me.
more higher energy dogs back in your home again.
I do. So mom warned me, Holly, the border collie, loves to play, and I'm thinking, oh, I love playing too, but I mean, this dog will play at all hours of the night. She is nonstop, so high energy. So it's been very rewarding. They have a lot of traits that Harley and Allison have, and sometimes I'll say out loud like, "Oh, you remind me so much of, the dogs." So it's been pretty special. I guess that's the word I would say. It's very special to be able to do that for somebody.
Absolutely. And I want to make sure our listeners know too. I did previously a really awesome interview podcast for Boots on the Ground with one of our other boarders named Michelle, who also, very similar to you, Lisa, actually, unfortunately had lost her own pets and wasn't really quite ready yet to dip back into pet ownership herself, but decided dogs on deployment was an avenue that she wanted to try to have pets back in her home again. And she speaks a lot of really great to that experience of pet loss and bringing boarded pets into the home. So thank you so much for sharing that experience, and I'm glad that it's been so special for you. And has it been what has that transition been like for your girls?
So, the first day when Bailey and Holly showed up, I kind of in my mind refer to that as like the newborn stage when you bring a baby home because everyone's trying to get acclimated to each other in a schedule. The first day was kind of chaotic. We do have cats in the home, so everybody was kind of on edge, but um, everybody's getting along great. The cats are coming around now. And my girls are doing phenomenal with them. They absolutely love them, adore them. They sleep with the girls, and so it's worked out really well for us.
That's amazing. Would you mind sharing with our listeners? You said that you had cats in the home, and I know earlier you had said that, it was at the time when you had your own canines in the home, you didn't necessarily want to pursue boarding because it can be very tricky, regardless of species. Anytime you're introducing new animals to each other, they all have their own personalities. So trying to get that to mesh can be a process. So you mentioned that you weren't quite there yet and didn't want to necessarily pursue that when you had the dogs and your dogs with you, but you have cats. So what was that transition and introduction process like when you brought in these two DoD boarded dogs with your current residential cats?
So, as a safety precaution, I actually ended up traveling to Walmart then. I purchased some gates. just to kind of keep them separated at first and they could come around each other. And, as the weeks went on, it just got easier. They started coming around the dogs more. And now we have all the gates down. So now they can pretty much do whatever they need to do. The other thing, too, when Harley and Allison were alive, we had them on the invisible fence, where they wear the collar, and I had talked to mom about doing that for Bailey and Holly just because we don't live on a main road, but it is a fairly busy road that the speed limit's like 55. So, in order to protect them, that's something that I kind of wanted to do. And so they are trained on the invisible fence. Invisible fence came out and did the training sessions, and the girls are doing phenomenal with the invisible fence. So.
I'm so happy to hear that. And, the really great thing that I also want anyone who might be listening that's curious about becoming a boarder for dogs on deployment, one that, everything is history and you finally get those pets deployed to you through Dogs on Deployment's network, you get what we call a boarding care plan. And the really fantastic thing about that document is you as the boarder get a roadmap that their pet owner has filled out for you about a guidebook, essentially everything to that animal's quirks, their needs, things that they would like for them to do as far as their routines. But in situations like this, we also want to, encourage our boarders and our service members to practice open communication and feel empowered in that because, like Lisa mentioned, like she has a personally and invisible fence. And I'm so glad that you went through the training sessions and that your boarded dogs have, adapted to that because animals are resilient and just have those
Mhm.
conversations with the service member up front so that way if that's something that you want to maintain their safety or maybe your routine might be a little bit different, you can have those conversations before they leave in order to best support those pets once they actually come into your home. So I'm so happy to hear that you had those conversations and thanks for looking out for them because 55 miles per hour, 25 miles per hour vehicles can definitely be a safety issue for pets, especially those high energy dogs that you have in your care.
I also wanted to thank Chewy for fulfilling all our needs. Pretty much mom can go on and set everything up, and it's auto shipped to the house. That's including, the flea and tick medicine, any kind of toys. So they've been super helpful in the DoD boarding process as well.
Absolutely. I personally love Chewy. They've been fabulous. And just so that way our listeners know too, what Lisa's talking about is we do encourage our pet owners that are using the Hero Pet Boarding Network to either supply everything the pet is going to need during the boarding period, which, includes everything from, their food, their toys, their beds, or even medications like flea and tick, have all of that ready to go for your DoD boarder when you drop the pet off, or wonderful or places like Chewy make it possible where all of that stuff can be set up on auto ship. So, we really advocate for peace of mind. That's why Dogs on Deployment does what we do. That way, our service members have peace of mind pertaining to their pets when they are serving their country. Chewy is a wonderful another way that they can just set it up before they leave, and they have that peace of mind knowing that they can focus on what they have to do wherever they are, and their pet is cared for both by the boarder and getting everything that they need during those auto ship orders. So now that you are currently in the midst of your experience with being a Dogs on Deployment boarder, and you've also had experience with Dogs on Deployment as a service member yourself using the Hero Pet Boarding Network, what stands out to you most about that experience? And is there anything that you wish people would understand from either side of that journey a little bit more?
I mean, if you have the opportunity to, open your home and help out a service member or, a first responder, I encourage you to do so, uh, not only for the experience alone, but, um, just kind of being of service to people. I mean, Dogs on Deployment couldn't exist without DoD borders. We would literally have service members having to surrender their animals to shelters. Um, so I just think it's a wonderful opportunity, and if you can do it, you should. Um, Having that weight lifted off your shoulders in order to continue to serve your country and, kind of stay focused and maintaining your resilience, those are all things that, are vital to, being in uniform. So,
So Lisa is not only boarding dogs for dogs on deployment, she is doing so much other things for the organization in the form of advocacy. And Lisa, would you mind telling our listeners a little bit more about that? I would love for you to share and maybe give some other ideas to our listeners nationwide.
yeah, so recently I was hired with the Veteran Service Commission in Ohio. We have 88 counties in Ohio, and each county has a Veteran Service Commission. We're required to attend trainings every year. And in April, we attended a training where there was over 250 people present, and I decided to volunteer and give a presentation on dogs on deployment. So I was able to, make other veteran service commissions within Ohio aware of dogs on deployment and what they have to offer. So not only do they know, but so they can share with their veterans. Out of I believe it was like 287 people. Out of the 287, one person had raised their hand and knew what dogs on deployment was. So I think that's a major win in Dogs on Deployment's book. Um, and so, what I'm really trying to do is just bring awareness in the state of Ohio. I'm trying to, talk with my reserve unit and make them aware. Also, just different organizations around here within the community. So, there's a lot of different things going on right now.
That's awesome. Almost 300 more people now know more about dogs on deployment. And I want to take this opportunity to encourage our listeners. Lisa is just one person and she's now made a huge impact on, over 280 other people. And that one singular person can also be you. And it doesn't necessarily need to be something like going and talking to an assembly. But of course, please, by all means, if those opportunities are available, reach out to Dogs on Deployment. We'd be more than happy to get you set up with information to be able to allow you to do that efficiently. But it also can come down to something as simple as sharing our pets in need post on social media. Word of mouth is so, so critical to Dogs on Deployment, both for our volunteers, so that way we continue to have new ones come on board, but also for our service members, so that way they know our programs exist and that we're available to them. And since Lisa mentioned veterans, I did also want to clarify as well. We do also support veterans with our Hero Pet Boarding Network. So you might be thinking, well, if you're helping with things like deployment and active duty service commitments, where do our veterans fall into that category? Well, there are veterans out there that might be getting medical treatment for service related things, and there are lots of veterans out there that we have heard directly from them say, I am not going to go get treatment for myself because I don't have someone able to take care of my pet for me during that time. And of course, please, we want you to take care of yourself too, so that way you can continue to be, 100% for your pet. So our Hero Pet Boarding Network is available for that, both during, your time of surgery as well as some recovery time as well. That way, when you come back, you are better than ever for your pet, and you don't need to get rid of your pet just because you have to have some medical stuff done. So we really, really appreciate Lisa taking the time to share that with the Veteran Commission because it's critical. We also do help with, periods of homelessness as well for our veterans that have pets in their care that they need some help with while they get themselves back on their feet. We help with that too. Pets are a part of your family, whether you're a veteran, active duty, or first responder, and we're here to support you and your pet during all of life's different ups and downs and things that you throw your way. So thank you, Lisa, for sharing that with the state of Ohio. So that way we have more pets that are continuing to be cared for and not end up in the shelter system.
You're welcome. And I do have the DoD flyer in my office with Staff Sergeant Carlson and Nala, so all my veterans can see them. That was a great story, by the way, too.
Fabulous. Oh my gosh, I'm so happy that you heard. So, in case anybody doesn't know and you haven't seen, you are also welcome. I did do a Deployment Diaries podcast episode with Brent Carlson and Nala and his wife Amelia. Nala is our 2025 American Hero Pet of the Year and DoD mascot, and she has a very, very compelling story of resiliency and um, I don't want to say too much and give it all away because there are other resources. We have blogs on our article about Nala as well as the podcast recording. That's what Lisa's referring to. Brent and Nala are on all of our marketing for 2025, including our DoD printable flyers that you yourself can go to our website and download and share with the masses as one of the other forms of advocacy. But yeah, go listen to her story. She's fabulous. I love her little floofy face.
Yes, it was a beautiful story. And, he's representing the National Guard. So it's important to, have representation of our, reserves and National Guard because they're important too.
Absolutely, 100%. And Nala is actually our first National Guard American Hero Pet of the Year. So we are so excited to have her representing the organization throughout 2025 for many reasons, and that's just one of them. Well, thank you so much, Lisa, for chatting with me today. I'm so excited to have you on, and I cannot wait to see that reunion when mom's finally reunited with her girls. And we really appreciate everything you have done, both for our country and for our organization.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Hey there, it's Elisa Johnson, president of Dogs on Deployment. As a veteran and a pet owner, I know firsthand the challenges military members face, especially when it comes to pet ownership during deployment, training, or PCS moves overseas. That's why I created Dogs on Deployment. We are the only free to use nationwide online network of volunteer pet boarders willing to care for military member pets during their service commitments. We have one goal: to prevent unnecessary pet relinquishment by service members due to their service commitments. No military member should have to give up their beloved pet when duty calls. But we have one problem. We need you in order to help us achieve mission success. If you support the troops and love animals, you can sign up to volunteer to board one of our pets in need or make a donation online to support our Hero Pet Boarding Network. Don't wait. Visit dogsondeployment.org to get started. And don't forget to follow us on social media too. And hey, just because we're called Dogs on Deployment doesn't mean we don't help cats too. I've got dogs, cats, and even chickens, and through our network, we've helped every type of pet. So don't wait. Visit dogsondeployment.org today to support your troops and their pets.